Hello, this is Mrs. Ross, and this is Module B, Unit 1, Lesson 2, Cell Structures and Function. These are the notes. This is probably going to be a two-parter. So let's see, we're going to start on page 20 in the section that's called A Cell is a Whole System. So let me go ahead and fast forward to that. So this is 18, this is 19, and this is 20. So a cell is a living system, a cell is a whole system. I wonder if those are the same. Should be. So there we go. What is the difference between the unicellular organism and the multicellular organism with regard to cell function? So let's see. In a unicellular organism, the cell must perform all the functions it needs to live. In a multicellular organism, different types of cells interact to perform specific functions needed by the organism to survive. That is the difference. In a unicellular organism, the cell must perform all of the functions it needs to live. In a multicellular organism, different types of cells interact to perform specific functions needed by the organism to survive. Okay, let me scroll down a little bit. Basic functions of all cells. Okay, so basic functions of all cells, that's going to be in this second paragraph. However, regardless of their function or type of organism they compose, all cells have similar basic functions they need to carry out to remain alive. These functions are carried out not by the cell as a whole, but by specific parts of the cell. So these are the basic functions you're going to list in 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Cells store and process information. That's 1. Cells store and process information. That's 1. Cells gather matter and energy from the environment. That's 2. Number 2, cells store and process information. Number 2, cells store and process information. Number 3, cells gather information and matter. Oh, okay, I messed it all up. Darn it. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's start over. Literally 3 people have come in my room in the last 5 minutes, and I forgot where I was. I think, hold on, I'm going to use this. We are here, and I'm going to start back at 1 because I got all manner of, yeah. Okay, so cells store and process information. So we have cells store and process information. You're going to write all that down. That's number 1. Number 2 is cells gather energy and matter from the environment. So energy and matter, you're going to write the whole thing. I'm not going to write the whole thing. Cells gather energy and matter from the environment. Number 3, cells use energy to carry out functions. So you're going to write the whole thing. Cells use energy to carry out functions. And then lastly, cells get rid of wastes. Turn that off. Okay. Wow, we got through it. Praise the Lord. Okay. So let's do our first quick check here. It says explain how a cell can be described as a whole system and also as part of a larger system. Explain how a cell can be described as a whole system and also part of a larger system. So cells make up living organisms, both unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular organisms perform all the functions needed to live, for the cell to live. Multicellular organisms are different types of cells performing unique functions to provide for the needs of the whole organism. So basically what we have here is we have the definition of unicellular and the definition of, wow, I don't even know what that is, unicellular, and then the definition of multicellular. And you have that up here somewhere. No, not here yet. I think you have it on your lesson 1 notes. However, I will read it again. Cells make up living organisms, both unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular organisms perform all the functions needed for the cell to live. Multicellular organisms are different types of cells performing unique functions to provide for the needs of the whole organism. You're welcome to write all of that out. You can pause me. Let's see. Types of cells and their structure, page 21. So let's go down to that. Here we go. Types of cells and their structure right there. 3 structures that carry out the essential life functions and their definition. So we have the cell membrane, that's going to be here. And the function of the cell membrane is that it surrounds and protects the cell. So it surrounds and protects, you're going to write all of that, protects the cell. Okay. Then we have the definition of cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a liquid substance that fills the inside of the cell and supports cell structures. Cytoplasm is a liquid substance that fills the inside of the cell and supports cell structures. Organelles are small membrane-bound structures in the cytoplasm that are specialized to perform a specific function. Organelles are small membrane-bound structures in the cytoplasm that are specialized to perform a specific function. So let's continue. Prokaryotic cells, awesome. Okay, characteristics of prokaryotes. So under prokaryotic cells here, it says a prokaryotic cell contains its genetic material in the cytoplasm. So that's going to be one, the genetic material in the cytoplasm. Most prokaryotic cells do not have membrane-bound organisms. No membrane-bound organelles, I'm sorry, although they do have ribosomes, that's fine. Prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms, and bacteria are the largest group. So hopefully you'll write more than I did, but if we go back to number 1, characteristics of prokaryotes, prokaryotic cell contains its genetic information in the cytoplasm. Most prokaryotic cells do not have any membrane-bound organelles. Prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms, that's number 3. And bacteria are the largest group of prokaryotes, that's number 4. So then we have parts of a prokaryotic cell we're going to name and define. So that's here on this beautiful prokaryotic cell that we have. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have genetic material, cytoplasm, ribosome, cell membrane, cell wall, and flagellum. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to write these down here. Genetic material, all of it. I'm not going to do all of it. You can do that. You can pause and do that. And then you're going to want to define it. So the genetic material contains information that directs all of the cell's functions. You're going to want to write that down. You're going to want to write all of it down. Okay? So that's through 6. Now we're on to eukaryotic cells on page 22. So let's go down. Oh, it's not letting me. Here we go, I think. There we go. Okay. So eukaryotic cells, the question is, how do eukaryotic cells how do prokaryotic cells compare to eukaryotic cells? Eukaryotic cells are generally larger and more complex than prokaryotic cells. So we want to write both of those down. So maybe this should be switched like this. How do eukaryotic cells compare to prokaryotic? So we know that eukaryotes are larger and eukaryotes are more complex. Okay. Parts of an animal cell. Okay, so that's going to be a eukaryote is an animal cell. Eukaryote. We have, let's go ahead and scroll this down. We have 6 parts. I don't think they're all, yeah, okay, there they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So they're all in the picture. The nucleus, the mitochondrion, the lysosome, the Golgi apparatus, the smooth ER, and the rough ER. ER stands for endoplasmic reticulum. So you're going to want to list all of these. Here, we'll go with the rough ER. And then you're going to want to list what it does. So the rough ER is located near the nucleus, contains ribosomes. It's involved in making and processing proteins. So I would write making and processing proteins. And you might want to go ahead and pause this, write those down. But I'm going to keep going. Oh, we have quick checks. Yay. Okay. Which of these structures surround cells? That's going to be the cell membrane and the cell wall. Okay. Plant cells have a cell wall. Animal cells do not. What 2 features do eukaryotes have that prokaryotes do not have? Okay, we're going to get into it. And that's membrane-bound organelles and a nucleus. So eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles and a nucleus. Okay. So under a high-powered microscope, Dan sees a cellular organelle. The organelle has a double membrane and the inner membrane is folded. Which organelle does Dan see? He's going to see a mitochondrion. And I wonder if we have a picture of one over here of what it looks like. Oh, there it is, where it kind of folds back on itself. Eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells have some parts in common. Which of these pairs of parts would you find in both types of cells? Which of these pairs of parts would you find in both of these types of cells? Let's see. Cell membrane and cytoplasm, okay? Because the prokaryote's not going to have the nucleus. The prokaryote's not going to have the membrane-bound organelles. Yeah, okay, let's keep on keeping on. The functions of individual cells and functions of multicellular organisms are similar. The table identifies some functions of cells in the organ systems that perform these functions in multicellular organisms. Which of these organelles has a similar function to the digestive system? Okay, so if we look here, you see waste removal, excretory system, circulation, and it tells you. So which is similar to the digestive system? Breakdown of food into energy. Similar to the digestive system. We're going to call that the mitochondrion. You've probably heard, if you've listened to TikTok at all, that the mitochondrion is the powerhouse of the cell. That's where the energy comes from. George looks through a microscope and observes the structures of cells on a microscope slide. He concludes the cells he observes are eukaryotic. Which of these cells did George most likely observe before making his conclusion? Probably he saw a nucleus, because that's what you'll see in a eukaryotic cell. A prokaryotic cell will have cytoplasm, cell membrane, and genetic material. It just won't have a nucleus. So let's keep going. We're on page 23 now. And it says, what parts of a plant cell are found in an animal cell? What parts of a plant cell are found in an animal cell? So let's see. So if we look at the very top here, the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the nucleus, then the mitochondria, I believe are, is that correct? Are found. Yeah. That's 4, but you could put 3. That's fine, 3 of those 4. So in addition to the cell membrane, so the cell membrane are both in the plant cell and the animal cell, cytoplasm, nucleus, and mitochondria. So if you wanted to add a 4th, you could, you don't have to. And then 3 parts, additional parts of a plant cell that are not in an animal cell, those are going to be here, down here at the bottom, the chloroplast, the cell wall, and the vacuole. So the chloroplast, the cell wall, and the vacuole. Okay, and you're going to want to define those. So the chloroplast captures light from sunlight and changes it into food. The cell wall surrounds the entire plant cell, including the cell membrane, and gives it support, gives it structure. And then the vacuole contains materials and waste. It also maintains adequate pressure inside the plant cell. So there's reasons that all 3 of those things are in a plant cell. Okay, quick check. The diagram shows a cell that Dimitri saw on his microscope slide. Dimitri's teacher gave him an unlabeled slide of some cells and asked him to identify whether the cells were plant cells or animal cells. Dimitri examined the slide under a microscope and concluded that the cells were plant cells. How did Dimitri reach his conclusion? Is his conclusion correct? What life processes can these cells carry out that a cell from another kind of multi-organism cannot? That's a lot of information, okay? So we have 1, 2, nope, this is going to be 2, 3. Okay, so 1, Dimitri identified the cells based on his observation of a cell wall, central vacuole, and the presence of chloroplasts. That's how he knows that this is a plant cell. Okay, that's the answer to number 1. How did Dimitri reach his conclusion? Dimitri identified the cells based on his observation of a cell wall, central vacuole, and the presence of chloroplasts. Okay. Okay, number 2. Number 2 says, is his conclusion correct? So number 2, Dimitri was correct because none of these organelles